Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cannabis Accounting Podcast. Today, I have with me my good buddy, Nate Landau, Snowtill, the COO. For those who don't know, Nate, if you want to introduce yourself briefly in Snowtill and we're
Well, my name is Nate Landau. We're based out of San Francisco, California. We've been cultivating for over 10 years, and we launched our adult use brand in the California market in September 2023.
very cool. Very cool. Well, just to back it up a little bit, I always like to ask my guests, there's lots of industries we could have gotten into. You're a smart cat. So what made you interested in the cannabis industry and what were some of your earliest forays into the business side of cannabis?
All right. So I came to visit California for the first time in 2013, and my friend offered me to go see a weed farm. I'm like, a weed what? He's like, oh yeah, up in the Emerald Triangle. It was Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity, three counties in Northern California. And I'm like, okay, sure. I was expecting to see a handful of outdoor plants, and I get on the farm, and there's three greenhouses packed with cannabis plants. And after 10 minutes that it took me to regain my composure, I had to go there. I'm like, I'm scared. He's like, no, it's California. And that just, a light bulb went off in my head. And I was an event planner in New York. I was going to quit my job right then and there, but I'm like, wait. But let's figure this out. But Colorado, in beginning of 2014, Colorado started the rec market, and it just felt like the right time. So I just, at the end of 2014, I just wasn't feeling my job in New York anymore. I decided to quit my job, pack my bags, and dive headfirst into cannabis space in California, which it was still a community versus the industry.
Yeah. So more about the culture. Very interesting. I guess before I get into the side of like business owner, like what were some of the early days out there? Like, did you move out there and like immediately start your own, business, or did you work for other operators or like mentor under a couple other, growers or distributors? Like, what were some of those early days? And how did you transition from like curious about the cannabis industry and moved from New York to the West? And then now I'm going to step into that business owner role.
So it's hard to imagine today with all the regulations, but California pre 2018 was actually a great place to do business. Like, you showed up to the dispensary with the pound. It didn't matter if you grew it in your garage, in your backyard. They liked it. They took it. They didn't like it. They didn't take it. So because I moved here right at the beginning of 2015, it was pre any regulation. Within 2 months of not knowing anybody, I had a 10-acre farm in Trinity County. And yeah, I go right into it. I never grew anything in my life before. The closest thing I got to growing anything was a basil plant, to have fresh basil in New York, and that stayed in its package for a year and a half. Yeah, I just dove in head first. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I was tired of working for other people in general. I wanted to for myself. So I was like, I'm already going to do that. Let's just jump into new industry instead of trying to figure out something in my old industry.
Man, I love that story because it's like cannabis has always kind of represented that for me of like it was always like a business opportunity, especially when you were younger. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I can't compete with some of these other people. Like, I don't have 10 experience. I'm 17 years old, but or 25 years old. So it's like cannabis always provided this like opportunity to like own a business quickly. We're like, I could, and then it like then you get to learn all the other stuff of being a business owner of sales and employees and cash management and capital management, turning over inventory before it loses value. But just backing it up a little bit, like, because I'm right there with you. Like, why did you not like working for other people? Or like, I'm sure you had some bosses throughout your career, like, because a lot of people don't mind it. So I guess, like, what was your experience? Just like, candidly, like, why do you didn't like it?
Uh, so I kind of always had a very independent spirit since I was young. I kind of always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I lacked the experience and the know-how, so it was good to learn from others. And then my last job in New York, I got a rare opportunity where I got to pretty much fully run the business, but without owning it. And there is a big distinction of running a business and owning it. So you get to get the operational experiences without the pressure of being the owner. And, what I gave the report to make sure that payroll happened, but I wasn't in charge of making sure the revenue was there for payroll, etc. And in my last boss, we stayed friends, but there were so many things where I'm like, we could be so much more efficient, do stuff more better, and he would never listen to me. And that was it, when I constantly hit a brick wall with them. I was like, that's it. My next thing I'm doing for myself.
Okay. Nice. No, that's pretty standard story. So I guess you started, like I said, very quickly started owning your own business. What advice would you give? Because cannabis industry, you're a kind of a rarity at like a decade in this game. Like a lot of people in the cannabis industry, especially the regulated side, it's like less than 5 years, less than 10 years. So, despite your age, you're kind of a wily old vet, Nate. So I guess, but there's still a lot of new or first time business owners entering the cannabis space, like, especially on the east side where it's like, or East Coast, east of the Mississippi, where like they've owned, these new states are coming online. So like they've owned a successful construction company, then they applied for a license and then they won it. Any advice for like a first time business owner in the cannabis industry in some of these new markets that are opening up? Your experience in one of the oldest and toughest markets.
Yeah, onto that, in MJ BizCon, I ran into a bunch of students about to graduate, and they're like, "Where did you go to school for cannabis?" I'm like, "The streets." And so I know this is cool that now that actually exists, and they were asking you for advice. And he's like, "Hey, you got to lead with passion. Unless your father owns a VC company and gonna bankroll the hell out of you. You got to really be passionate about it. It's a great opportunity, sure. The green rush. I remember 2017 the pitch there that within 6 months you'll get 100% return on your investment, and then the 30% annual return. I'm like, that's not realistic, and of course it wasn't. So that's don't go for that. Go and really find one core competency and focus on that 100%. And until you have that nailed down and have 6 months to a year worth of consistent sales, don't try to branch out to anything else. Focus on the one thing you're really good at.
Man, I really like that. Yeah, I kind of was wishing there was like some secret sauce, but it's like, nah, man, good business takes time. And it's not like you're an expert at 3 things and that's what made you your secret sauce. It's one, and you did it really, really, really well. Which is a good segue. Obviously, like, I'm an accountant and I doubled down, like, got my CPA license. It's like, nope, I just want to do accounting and finance. Like, I really, and I like a lot of businesses, like my little ADHD mind. And so accounting allows me to get underneath the hood of a lot of different companies. And it kind of scratches my itch, like owning different companies, to your point, without the pressure of actually being an equity owner in them. But that's a good segue into getting really good at your one core competency and not chasing the hype. Like, obviously, you guys have a unique kind of business thesis with Living Soil. Like, I just know how hard it is, and that's why a lot of indoor grows or just cultivation companies in general steer away from it. So I guess just if you could elaborate a little bit about just kind of like what made you interested in, being a cultivator that focuses on living soil versus some of the other cultivation techniques.
Yeah. So when I started in I did outdoor season in Trinity County, and I had before my current business partner, shortly I had a different business partner, and he just knew traditional agriculture. And there I'm standing in this beautiful forest with all this vegetation around me, and everything is growing amazingly, and no one's spraying anything or feeding it, plating nutrients. And there I am just pumping chemicals into these plants, and it just didn't feel right. And then I worked with my current business partner, and we just celebrated 10 years together, Joseph Snow, and I worked with his older brother in New York, and he introduced us. And our first conversation, he just watched the video of Mendo Doe, the cultivators / rappers from Mendocino, and they were talking about living soil. And the first conversation we had, I didn't understand the concept. My gut was telling me, they're like, no, this is what you're looking for. This is the secret sauce. And on top of that, I learned very quickly, okay, it's 2015, but that's when California, throughout the year, they worked on their finally regulating the medical space, and they didn't pass the laws at the end of the year. And I started just getting of understanding of it's not going from a community to industry, and on a quantity level, I won't be able to compete. It's going to be a race to the bottom. Sure, I could do my outdoor season for another year or two and get by, but I'm unfortunately, a lot of my friends are outdoor cultivators, and they just California have gone through a bloodbath, and so many of them don't operate anymore. And this living soil was something that would allow us to stick out. Now, the fact that it's sustainable and all this great stuff I'm getting to is great, but our goal is we're always striving to improve our quality. And we just found with the living soil that it's this, it just brings it there. So I'll explain why the quality there is. We as humans know so much about nutrition, and we still can barely feed ourselves properly. A plant that can't communicate with you, the leaves are turning yellow. You can think it's because there's not enough magnesium. There really wasn't enough. There wasn't enough calcium, and now you went and gave it more magnesium. So now you cause a nutrient lockout for the magnesium as well, and create more problems. Where the living soil, think about it as a buffet style, where the plants get what it wants when it wants it. So it really allows the plants to maximize its genetic potential. It keeps it consistent, and especially in our terpene production, it really exemplified that, one of the first things that people notice, how good the smell of our product is. And we always make sure to get our terpenes tested, and we always put it on our labels. We do the terpene process as one of our badges of pride.
Nice. No, that does kind of make sense. It's like, right? Like I'm fairly conscious of what I put in my body. It's like I try to eat whole foods and like not processed foods. It's like I work out 6 days a week, so it's like I eat 2 meals a day between this specific like time window. It's like eggs and bacon and the like same lunch every day, and it's like, all right, this actually makes sense. Where like, and I can feel it if I eat real food versus processed food. It's kind of the same with the plants. It's like we're feeding them, living soil. I feel like it's kind of like organic or like the most natural food we can give the plants. Otherwise, the other methods, like say, you're trying to like mix the batches. I remember doing that, and it's like seeing how it all comes together, and it does kind of feel like you're just mixing chemicals together. Like, I'm just like feeding this to the plants, and then I gotta smoke it. It's like no wonder the plant doesn't express its like full potential. It's like kind of getting synthetic food. So that actually makes a lot of sense, and I can vouch for that. I mean, it's like I smelled this flower and BizCon, and like it is kill. It's like, oh, this is like fresh off the farm. But it's not. It's just like it's very good terpenes. You still have to dry it, cure it, get it to Nevada, and it's like it still smelled fire. That is, I guess, starting out, because it's like everybody knows it does provide a really good flower, but it comes with a cost and a skill set that's just makes it really hard to replicate. And that's kind of like what we're always going for with these runs or these facilities, right? Everybody can have one good harvest, but like, how can we replicate that consistently, every month or every 2 months or every other week, depending on how your facility's set up? So I guess starting out, what were some of the earliest challenges you had trying to dial in the, living soil? And then was there like a breakthrough moment where like, okay, cool, now we can run this very, very consistently? Kind of, how was that process?
Oh, 100%. There is a learning curve, and you have to be willing to take it on the nose for a cycle or two. And most people just didn't have the foresight for it. But again, you're asking advice for business. At the end of the day, a lot of times your gut is the only thing that can guide you, because we're trailblazing here, or everything's new. It's like you open a pharmacy, there's over 100 years worth of data you can pull from and know where to set up and what to do. Here, there's not. So we had to go with their gut, and we just really believed in that's our goal, and this is the way to go. And I would say the size of the ecosystem. So one of our challenges is we started in a 15-gallon pot, and we got some good results, but it wasn't enough of an ecosystem. I would say like the breakthrough is when we went from 15-gallon pot to 4x4 bag. That we definitely, that's where we really start seeing the yields go up, the consistency happen, because that was a big enough ecosystem to fully support the living soil. Because the whole thing is well, I'm getting brain fart, so we're gonna have to shift out soil food web. So let's run through it very briefly. The plants release a thing out of the root called exudate. The plant's pooping. And then the bacteria and fungi eat that, and then it becomes readily available nutrients again, but it's stuck inside your body, and the worms come and eat the bacteria and fungi, dissolve their bodies, but the nutrients that were locked in their bodies gets pooped out by the worm. And since the bacteria and fungi are hanging out by the root, the worm now just release that rejuvenated nutrient right back to the root system. And so it's kind of like this ecosystem. But to make that happen, it needs to be a certain size. So that would be the first thing. Another thing is we wanted to see like, hey, can we just get 100% purely only water 100% of the time? And cannabis is a very hungry plant, and especially doing it indoors, where 3-4 days after harvest, we're already having the next cycle going. You do need to put some stuff. So we started doing some cover crops and some mulch, as well as doing some dry amendment, top dressing, times the cycle. So once we did that, like, okay, sure, we want to be pure, only water, but after 3 cycles of doing that, the soil was like, come on, you're taking so much out of me, you got to give me something back.
It's a little depleted.
So,
That is interesting. And then obviously the flower comes out great. It's like great environment. You know, you get it. That's why I do like growing stuff. It's like making money from dirt is fascinating to me. So it's like you got to get the good ecosystem, the environment. But then how do you guys kind of think through genetics? Like anybody, I'm not a cultivation like nerd, but I just have talked to enough of them, and I just like everybody loves different genetics grow best. What do you want it for? Like, what's the end result? It's going to be turned into oil. It's going to be top shelf flower, pre-roll, like, and there's like different genetics kind of like lend themselves better to different SKUs and products. So I guess like, how do you guys think through the types of genetics that you guys are running? Like, do you have like, we only do these ones, or are you cycling through a lot of different genetics? And how do you, cause I know it takes like months, you know, it's like when you want to like have a drop of this, you got to start 3-6 months in advance. So kind of, can you tell us a little bit about how you work through genetic selection?
Yeah, 100%. So we're fortunate that breeders are curious to see how their genetics do. And we are unique, because not only do we do living soil, we do it indoors, but the control environment. So breeders are having curious to see how our stuff does. And that's the thing where in hydroponics all the time, you have to really dial in the nutrients down sometimes to the millimeter. So you kind of have to stay within a certain realm of genetics, like, okay, only gelato, or something like that, where with us, we're like, we don't care. There is, sure, we need to know how they grow, big leaves, small leaves, a lot of branches. That's figuring out, but the nutrition, no, we don't even figure it out. So by the end of the first cycle, we figure out how it grows. And we pride ourselves on having a very diverse genetic library. Leaf Magazine started last year doing a leaf bowl, and we showcased at the award ceremony, and where customers were impressed. We had 9 different strains at our table, and each one of them was very different. And we try to we don't chase trend, because like you said, okay, something I really hyped up on Instagram, you go out, it takes you a month or two just to start a single plant of it, then you got to mother it out, then you got to clone it out, then you got to grow it in 6-8 months until you bring it to market, and now a new trend is starting. So we like to more focus on some more old school. Like last year we released J1, a Jack Herrera cross into the market, and this stuff like that, good stable stuff. We have our Motor Breath OG. It's that very obnoxious, gassy, fuely thing. You either love it or you hate it. But yeah, making it very diverse, and we have SOPs of how to do it. We do one plant, then we'll bend, etc. You never want to go, no matter how hot the strain is, you never want to go and do a whole production of it for the first time. You never know. New environment, new growing method. You don't want to do it. But yeah, it's always, and we're always open, always searching. I'll tell you, we really grew our genetic library. We finally had the opportunity to do some pheno hunting last year. So I think our genetic library is at 60. We have about 15 of them are currently in production. And then while I think how to do it is we always keep it small batch. So we have about an average of 8 strains per room. So we're never releasing to market more than 5 pounds of a particular strain per drop. They always keep it going, and except for our award-winning strain, there's 2 of them. everything gets rotated in and out. So as a customer, you have this skill set, like, hey, this dropped at this dispensary, but it might be 6 months until I get to try it again. So people are more motivated to purchase.
I do like that. Because it is like interesting that balance. Like a new drop that's hot, and I don't know, cannabis is so unique because it's like, yes, it's kind of like alcohol in the sense, or like a beverage or a CPG, but it's like Oreos have been the same Oreos my entire life. It's like, oh, that's what they sell. Whereas like, or even like soda, like Pepsi and Coke. It's like, yeah, they got like Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Sprite, but it's like 5 flavors. And it's been the same for 25 years. Whereas like cannabis is this unique thing, which is a challenge for you guys as operators, where they're like, I kind of want it, but I want it to be a little bit different every time. And it's like that balancing act of like people, it's very unique, where it's like they want new flavors, new crosses. And I guess it is like a genetic drift. It's like it's a living plant, it's like that's kind of what makes it special, is it expresses itself different. Stuff grown in, Michigan is going to be different than Arizona. And it's this, yeah, balancing act of making sure you got something that's good every time. It's going to sell. Oh, we don't want to be sitting on inventory where, cannabis sellers, not cannabis stores. And so, yeah, kudos to you guys. It is interesting. But that's a kind of a good segue into, yeah, what does the market want? But then also the politics side of cannabis. I know you're involved in some policy, different groups, and I was like passionate about policy reform. So I guess just at a high level, and I was not into policy or politics at all. I was like, no, I'm more interested in business. But now that I've been in cannabis, it's like you can't get away from it. It's like you got to kind of get involved. So what made you interested in lobbying, for cannabis policy reform? And then could you tell me a little bit about like what's new with the California cannabis market?
My good friend and mentor, Etienne Fonteno, the owner of Brooklyn's Patient Group, he has a saying, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And people are like, why do you lobby? I'm like, I don't do it because I want to. I do it because I have to. I really don't like bureaucrats and politicians. They attract a certain breed of people that I definitely would socialize with. But you have to, because at the end of the day, you got to think about it from their perspective. Some of them could be, towards the end of their career and their whole life, this is illegal, put people in jail for it. And all of a sudden, like, oh, no, it's legal now. You have to regulate. And they're like, what is it? Again, like no data, they don't know. So they'll just sometimes, there's nobody else on the industry voicing in the room. They're just going to make stuff up and not understand the dire consequences of what it can do. But, for example, in Colorado, I think 2 years or 3 years into legalization, they wanted all their edibles to have the letters T imprinted on it to make sure that there's no doubt that it's an edible. Right? That seems like a small little change, but it was about an average of $100,000 machine to be able to do that. Now, for small mom and pop, that alone is a big cost. Even worse is the timing when they implemented it. Colorado has a lot of tourism during the winter. A lot of mom and pops that don't have a big production capacity were ratcheting up for that time, which usually starts around Thanksgiving, when people send out time off, to about the beginning of February, when people are done with their winter break.
Yep.
And that wiped out a ton of small, and that thing went into effect on November 1st. That small chain wiped out a huge chunk of the mom and pop edible companies in Colorado. So that's a small thing, or there's something that they commit. So California has something very unique, where we actually have a legal framework to donate cannabis. California, prior to legalization, they have very robust programs of nonprofit of donating to elderly, veterans, disabled, like all different people that use it as medicine and put in the order for whatever reason. And then legalization happened, and then they decided, oh, you're donating it? Well, you're still going to have to pay fair market value tax on it. So as it is, it gets harder to be able to afford to donate, but if you have to pay a bunch of taxes on it,
you're like, wait, what? I'm like,
I can't do it. So I worked out on the core nonprofits that did it, and then we fought tooth and nail to get a bill called SB 34, where it created a pathway that you'll be able to do that. But California, anything to do with anything that could impact tax revenue, they put sunset clauses on. So there's a 5-year sunset clause on it. And then that was the fight that we had in 2024. And then I was on a Zoom call with the coalition that we were doing with the treasurer. And I gave him a real world example. I was in my trim room. I was in my drawing room. I was like, you see this? This is a top shelf nut. This goes in my jar. We're a premium brand. See the small bud? This will never go in my jar. We'll get horrible reviews if we put 20 little buds into an H jar. We cannot do it. So there's no imaginary lost tax revenue that you should calculate about, because the stuff that people donate will never be sold. And you can have real world example live on the call. And what got me into it, when I was in Trinity County, I learned a lot of information in small communities by the local newspapers. I began with the subscriber, and then one day I opened it, I look at the front page and it says marijuana on it. 2015, I was like, what? What is that? And I'm like, I gotta look it up. And that was where they were advancing the bill through the California's government to finally regulate it. And then I realized, oh, you can go out, they have a government website where you can look at the bill and see all the amendments. And then I realized that by law, local government have to give you public comment of 2 minutes. Or I just started reading like all these resources that you have that you don't have to be a well-established lobbyist to jump into. And I realized that if you don't go there and show up and constantly correct them, they're going to create laws that are going to be detrimental. 2 victories that we had in California. One of them is they decided to increase our excise tax 15% to 90%. And I haven't seen such unity in the California market in a long time, where we're all focused. It's all one message. We got over 50,000 emails sent in, and we called and harassed and showed up on lobby day and got back to the opinion. And the other thing was in San Francisco is they passed the ballot initiative in 2018 to impose a local tax. Supposed to go into effect in 2020. Luckily, COVID kept on kicking it down the road. But it was going to go into effect, and nothing happened on January 1st. And we just made it very simple. They're like, when San Francisco started their cannabis program, there was 35 cultivators. Now there's 2. We're one of them. Like, you impose a tax, there'll be 0. It's very simple. You can't do growth for seeds on things when your profit margins are very slow.
Huh, man. And those are just like such real world examples that you could just like pop off like top of the head. You're like, this is why I have to do this. So man, respect, Nate. It's like, I live in Wisconsin where we don't have any medical or adult use. So I'm like a terrible example of this, where it's like, I've been making money serving the cannabis industry and like paying W-2 taxes on it and like all of this stuff. But like, I haven't really lobbied too much at my state level. And luckily for us, there's like awesome people with the ICIA and Rob Perro and Mary Jane Ottoman. They're kind of like leading the charge. In Wisconsin, it's odd where like the tribes of Wisconsin are making more headway and progress of getting cannabis legalized for all of the citizens of the state than the actual like local governments. And so I'm learning more. And in Wisconsin, once Wisconsin gets going a little bit, then I want to be involved more in the policy. But obviously, you live in California. There's really real world examples. I'm talking with people in Michigan. They just got hit with a 24% tax. And it's like, where is this? Who's going to pay this? Is it the consumers? Is it the operators? The operators like, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. And so it's just like, I've just seen it as well, where like, we always want to hammer on the U.S. federal government of like, they're the reason everything's terrible. But it's like, most states are decoupled from 280E. And so it's like most states, like when the operators are getting hammered on, it's the state and local tax, not the federal tax. Like the federal tax almost never changes. It's illegal. But like the states and local governments who like give you the privilege to own a business and employ people and pay salaries and benefits and taxes, but they're going to get their cuts. So it's a necessary evil lobbying, but it has to be done. Like as much progress as we made, there's still a lot to go. And on that point, I kind of had a question too about like just California and other established markets, these like quote unquote cannabis deserts or weed deserts. Like just like, can you explain to some of the audiences, like, just because a state legalizes, it doesn't mean that there's like retail stores and cultivation everywhere. It's like the local governments can still say yes or no. So I guess in California, like, how has that changed? Like, is there still like these quote unquote weed deserts? Are there a lot more licenses? And I guess just like, how would you think, explain just kind of like how's the stigma around cannabis changed over the last 10 years? Well, you've been living in it.
Well, it varies from state to state. There are states, let's say like Oklahoma, that the local governments don't have a lot of power. The only thing they can do cannabis is zoning. There's no local permit or anything. And then you have California, which is the polar opposite, where it's not just cannabis, local governments have insane amount of power. So before even adult use was voted on in 2016, the medical regulation, all the 16 misunderstood something, and they all went into a ban. And every single locality, the counties, cities, all of them went into a ban. And then that created, it took many years of one locality would come on the time, and they would have very restrictive zoning. And landlords had to own the building outright to be able to rent you. So usually you would have to purchase it. So it always would pay like, okay, Oakland has 8 places that can be cultivation. Those things, the landlords were tripling their either monthly rent or tripling the real estate transaction value. And then what a cannabis desert is, I don't know, the California edition of it is you have to drive over 100 miles to purchase legal cannabis. I don't have the freshest data on it, but the last time I checked, still 65% of localities do not allow any kind of cannabis within their jurisdiction. And I would say probably another 50% that's very limited. Like you can have a distribution license. The least cannabis involved thing, there's no product, whatever. And yeah, there's still tons of people. And in California, or a state of 40 million people, where I think about 30% still live in a cannabis desert, then that's millions of people that don't have access.
12 million people. Yeah, it's a whole market that's just like, nah, I'll stay in the illicit. I don't need to drive an hour and a half to go get cannabis. And that again, like where I was going with like the positive side is like even a lot of these like established states, it's like it's still pretty restrictive. And so if there's moves at the federal level, and it makes local municipalities have to move a little bit. But there's still a lot of upside. Like the industry is still growing. We've just been around the plant for so long, like we're so used to it, but the majority of people are not. And so it's like it takes like good legalization and then years of like consumer education to be like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty safe for you. And like once they try it, they like it more than alcohol. And it's like, okay, like this is going to continue for a number of years yet. So no, it's kind of like a positive
Yeah,
thing.
I think that we were asking for tips for people starting out is people hyper focus on the big city. And sure, that's good. But this was from 2023, so it might have changed. With the most profitable dispensary was in Illinois on the border with Wisconsin, because they got a crazy spillover from everyone coming from your state in there, and they were a small town. They just happened to be in a good location. So a lot of times, these small towns that people overlook, that is actually a good place. You can actually convince. It's easier to sometimes convince a small government. There's not, you're not dealing with a crazy bureaucracy. There's not a million people in the local government. You actually make a compelling case, and especially if you live there, but even partnering up with the local there, that's part of the community. And those are overlooked red gem opportunities that there's going to be a lot of growth in that thing. Just people always focus on the big cities, and then usually especially retail, there's an over-concentration sometimes for like the limited zoning. Let's say a town next to me, Antioch, they have 4 dispensaries in a half-mile radius. They're all, fighting for the same customer. Or you, in a small town of 80,000 people, you're the only dispensary, you're going to crush.
No, for sure. And the border plays are becoming less and less, but like, again, like it takes years once the state legalizes to get like meaningful doors open. And so it's like Minnesota, for example, it's like they've legalized, they're just now getting retail doors open like 2 to 3 years into it. So it's like Illinois and Michigan have been able to still get a lot of Minnesota traffic. And then they have Wisconsin One thing I wanted to touch on, because I think I don't know, there's like, I feel like you are would be an interesting boss. So like, obviously you've been in business for like 10 years, and anybody who's been in a facility, like it takes a team to like run these facilities, and so kind of like switching gears more so just on like leadership philosophy, like. hmm, Kind of like, what is your take on leading? Like, because the cannabis industry, I feel like it used to be such a solo business, or like you and two or three other people. It's kind of like clandestine, and like those days are gone. Now we have big teams, we have payroll and benefits and all this stuff. So I guess like, how do you think through kind of being a leader in cannabis, and what's your leadership philosophy, Nate?
So, a realistic. A lot of people, their first job in cannabis, they're all super excited. I heard one trimmer like, can I trim for 12 hours straight? I'm like, no, you're gonna burn yourself out in 2 days. Like, yes, it seems exciting. Oh, it's cool. You're touching weed, but you're gonna very quickly learn that trimming is really hard. And not just trimming, especially cultivation, it's physical labor. It's like sure, it's cool, but very quickly, it's a lot of plans. It's a lot of physical work. So this setting expectations from the get go in the interview, like, hey, yes, this is good. This is a great opportunity, but it's a lot of hard work. And my personal leadership is my door's always open, always. Uh, for any good, bad, or the ugly, come to me. And it's not just saying it and proving it and showing it in action that it is, because you never know. It can be, I'll just give you an example. We used to put our clones after they were rooted in the arrow coner into silk cup. And there wasn't any scientific reason. We were, traditional growers at the time. That's just what you did. And then we hire a cultivation manager. It's like, how about we put them in 16 ounce pot? It will give the root system a little more place to spread out. And he's like, and I thought about it. I'm like, there is zero reason why we did it in solo cups. I'm like, sure, let's switch it out. So that's why you're always want to start. It doesn't matter. The person can have zero experience. It's the first day in the cannabis space, but they just see something different that you just got so used to doing. And that's why you want to foster it. Now, obviously, it's not like I take everything that's brought up to me. A lot of times they're like, oh, the reason why we do it, there's a reason why we can stuff. But it's been very adaptable. It's hard work and high pressure, and getting the supply chain down. It's always, and moving parts is also being encouraging, give the praise when it's deserved and everything. And just remember, it's human beings. Yes, they're your employees, but they're human beings. They have their wants and needs and everything. The thing that me and my business partner from day one is that they work hard for us. We make sure that they always get paid in full and on time, because the Bay Area is very expensive or whatever. For me, morally, if someone did something for me, I need to pay them. I need to get paid on time.
For sure, for sure. It's like, it's all about people. I kind of think, doesn't matter if it's product or service, it's like a good team matters. It's like a good founder and CEO can only take the business so far. And like the nature of cannabis, because it is such a physical products business, like we're not tech companies. We're not shredding code like in our laptops. Like, because I think of it as like, dude, like it's very agriculture, and then product manufacturing to me is kind of like you go from farming to factory work to retail work, and yeah, it's cannabis, so it's awesome. But to your point, it's not Willy Wonka's weed factory, all right? Like this is like serious business, and like there is a bit of pressure because like they're living plants. It's like you can blow a whole room, which has happened. It's like something happens, and you're just like looking into the room, like, ah, man, what are we gonna do, or like how do we save it? And so it's a lot of pressure, and there's always a beginning and an end. And so it's like we live in these cycles. So it's not just like, oh, the business is running and parts come in and parts go out. It's like, no, this is a living plant. It grows and then it flowers, and we got to pick it at peak flower, reclean the room, and do it again. So no, it's really like good to set realistic expectations, because I was for sure like I remember going to visit one of the girls when I was really younger, like I want to trim, and then like an hour in, I was like, so like how does it take to trim a pound? And it's just like, wait, I was like, wait, did it? I was like, I'm like 20 grams in. It's going to take forever. So that was like my come to Jesus moment where I was like, no, Ray, you are not a big cultivation guy. Like I'd rather sell it. Like you grow it, I'll sell it. That's way more fun. But that's awesome though, because you gotta start somewhere. I think that is like the passion for the industry is so awesome here because it's like I worked for a $20 billion company. So yes, the dollar amounts are way bigger. So yes, it's in 100 countries. So we're flying to different countries, but there was way less passion for that business, even though we were a big multinational conglomerate than I see in like a small mom and pop cannabis business. So for me, like, I like, like, well, as long as I'm like compensated, I'd rather work with like high energy, passionate people versus like people like I could care less about global construction projects. And then I guess just outside of like the growing kind of like new client or new teammates do bring in new perspectives. And we're big on that at Dope FO. It's like our tribal learning. It's like, hey, like the more smart people we bring in, like we got a good base. But if you see anything, let us know because continuous improvement's a real thing. And obviously with every run, it's like, how can I make this run a little bit better? So I guess like with that in mind, do you ever hire for like specific roles for people to bring in new things or new ideas? Or is it just kind of like as people come in, like how do you kind of think through bringing in new perspectives? Like, because you don't want to tweak too much too often. So I guess how do you decide what's like something where you're like, okay, this is like something we should at least test or something where you're like, nah, I don't think we need to try that. Because there is a lot of like changes and tweaks people see, but how do you think through that?
Yeah, so we try to do it as scientifically as possible and do A/B testing, and and the cool thing where you have some sense of your eyes. You're like, hey, we turned the light intensity up a little sooner than usual, and there was no impact on the plant's health, and our yield went up 5%. Sure, let's stick with it. No, the plant really didn't like the quality of the bud, and the yield went up. Do it. Higher thinking. Well, when I read it, you teach different stuff. You can teach work ethic. You can teach stuff like that. You have the right personality and the work ethic. I'll train you and teach you everything you want. But of course, as we grow, we are going to start, focusing on particular, skills, especially as we grow and we start bringing on more middle management and upper management hires. And yeah, that'll be more bringing them for a particular thing.
Right. So more like strategy insight. Okay, I want to be mindful of your time and get you out of here. But I guess it's kind of, we were talking offline about prohibition and just kind of the cannabis industry is still coming out of prohibition. You were kind of like talking about the Cannabis Nation and just kind of, because cannabis is going global. So it's this very interesting thing, but just could you tell me a little bit about just the Cannabis Nation? What is it? What was it created for? And what are your goals with it?
Well, so I go every year to the UN Drug Policy Convention in Vienna, and we have a whole group of people from all over the world. Fields of Green for All is the only cannabis NGO that's accredited in the UN. They're out of South Africa. They were the group that took the challenge to the Supreme Court in South Africa, because South Africa has a very unique thing in the Constitution, is the right to cognitive freedom. And they're saying the way their prohibition was language, it was impeding on their cognitive freedom. So that's how cannabis got legalized in South Africa. And then it's already followed. And, we did all this different international work. Michael Krawitz, he's a veteran out of Virginia, and that team in 2020, the reason why we have rescheduling is since 61, and we got fully implemented in 71 in this country with the Controlled Substance Act, you're part of treaties. There's a lot of treaties for a lot of different industries where they decide to regulate all substances, and in the most restricted in 20 with normal and all these different organizations fight. The DEA eventually feeling like, oh well, we can't all get treaty policy, if it has no medical use, that would be their excuse. Until 2020 came on, and then the UN changed it and did recognize medical value for it. And eventually that put pressure on the federal government. And in 2022, they started beginning to get part of the rescheduling process. So out of that, it came to form like cable from all these different countries, create Cannabis Nation. There is, usually to become a nation, you need to have some kind of territory. It can be a teeny tiny island, but there needs to be some physical thing. There is one precedent that went, the Order of Malta. They have been around since the Crusade time, and they're a very unique thing where they are a nation, and they don't have voting power, but they're allowed to speak at the UN, and they were kind of an inspiration. And we launched it last year in 2025. Because that was 100 years from the first cannabis prohibition. A lot of people think cannabis prohibition started in 1937 with the Marijuana Tax Act. It actually started in 1925 in Europe. I believe it's either in Basel, Belgium, I believe, or it was the first time it was mentioned internationally that there was some started putting some restrictions on it. So it was 100-year anniversary last year, and we have a lot of ambition for it. But to start with, if you become a member, to become a member of a nation, you have to swear allegiance to the nation. And all we ask for is you don't have to consume the plant. You just have to respect the people that do, and don't get in the way. And for very nominal fee, become a member. And the first thing we're going to offer is, hey, when you go, you're going to get like a cannabis passport. So there'll be a website where you go to it, and then you're traveling to a new country, you can kind of get to know the long term, what you can or cannot do. I was in Vienna. We spoke to John before we went into the restaurant, and we sat down, and before we even got to sit down, the server runs right up to us. He's like, you guys reek like weed. For a second, I'm like, okay. She's like, cops come here. And I was about to tell her, hey, I'm a medical patient. It's my... No, not your country. They do not have a medical program. They will not care about your California medical card. And that just sounded like, no, I'm not in California. It's not so easy like that. So knowing like, hey, there's certain like Singapore, do not touch weed, do not think about weed. If you go visit, like, don't even have the thought there. Where certain places, Barcelona, actually, they have association. You can go smoke there. You can kind of smoke on the street, but be careful. So this is get different aspects to it. And eventually, they say about 1 billion people on the planet are either consumed or involved in some different way. And that would make the Cannabis Nation, if we got all of them in our big pie in the sky dream, then we would be the third largest nation in the world. That's a very long time to make it. But yeah, that would give us a voice in the UN. Great policy. The reason care about it, people are for cannabis. A guy got executed for a tax method. He never even conspiracy for wanting to purchase it, and they executed it. So our goal is that by 2030, so every decade, they update the treaty. We want to make sure that there's adult English language in it, so then execution does stop. No one. I want it legal. I want every human being to have access in the world. But the first step is no one should die.
Yep. No, I agree. It's this, right? No one should die. No one should be in jail. Man, it's interesting. I feel like there's a lot more to come in the global cannabis scene and how it's going to develop and like who steps forward. So I'm excited, but I want to get you out of here, Nate, to respect your time. I know you're a busy man, but again, thanks so much for chatting with me today. I like what you guys are doing at Snowtill. I believe in it. It's like clean, like natural flower is like good. It's going to become a thing. It's already is a thing. It's just like we got into weird habits because we had to. And it's like, as the industry comes out of prohibition, it's like, nah, business theses will change. So I think you guys are on the forefront of something. So thanks so much for your time, Nate. And we'll talk again.